Hi, today I'd like to discuss um, a TLS SSL handshake exception for no subject alternative name that matches an IP address. There's an accompanying article in the Boomi community that describes what I'm about to share in the video. And in it, we encountered an LDAP connector. However, this could be with an HTTP connector or an FTPS connector, any connector that wants to establish a secure session using TLS, and it has a server certificate that has to validate. So when Boomi's connector is used, you might see something like this particular error where you do a test connection and then you could get a handshake exception, and the issue is there's no subject alternative name. What an subject alternative name is really an extension that's provided by X.509 for certificates that allows multiple names or aliases, if you will, to be used instead of the hard or the coded name for a server. For instance, Google.com might have a certificate, a server certificate that it uses as a wildcard, *.google.com. But it may have many, and if you did a lookup of Google.com, you would see many domain names, server aliases or SANs. And this is part of the certificate and must be match at least, the host name must match at least one of those entries. For this exception, I list possible issues, and one being the host mismatch, which was the case. So how do we actually look into this? Well, I documented here, but if you were on your browser and you did a test connection of the LDAP, or as I said, HTTPS connector, you might see this exception here where it's talking about the exception. So that's how it would look. One of the things we would do is we could use Wireshark to check the certificate, which would be non-intrusive, or we could enable SSL debugging in the container, and then that will allow us to look at what is actually being found in the certificate. So here, this is just an example of an entry where you would look at consuming the server certificate, and then it would have information about the certificate, etc. But you would go and look at the certificate chain, and then eventually we would find the error that is causing the problem. Here, this fatal certificate unknown, and then it gives the reason no subject alternative name. So from this exception, we would go back into the container logs and then try to find the actual alias name, and it is part of the certificate body, and here would be the subject alternative name. So if you had used an IP address for the server, but you don't have that IP address when the certificate was created included as a subject alternative name, then you will get that exception. So there are two options to resolve this. One is to use a valid subject alternative name that is part of the certificate, or you would use ask the certificate authority to reissue the server certificate to include any alias that you might want to use. I hope this was helpful in resolving your handshake errors or exceptions. Thank you for listening.